welcome everybody to session 5. It seems like this is going really fast. So just the next slide shows the goals for the overall training. So we're trying to learn how to form teams and coalitions to have groups that work with us on initiatives. We're down to the third bullet point, so utilizing best practices in building strong, effective teams and coalitions. So here we are on session 5. And so the last 2 sessions will be the same topic. Today will be part 1 and part 2. So the purpose of this session today is to help you understand your team or coalition's problems against well-researched best practices. And the information that we're going to be presenting is from the research of a Richard Heckman and Ruth Wagman from Harvard University. So they studied a whole bunch of leadership teams and identified domains that came up in successful teams. And so they've grouped together these best practices, and that's what we'll be sharing this week. So we'll talk about why leadership teams need a certain type of structure, what the typical challenges are, and then what you can do about in improving your own teams. So we're turning from, if you remember, the first weeks of storytelling, mapping actors, recruitment, to the point of where many of you have been in your work or where you are now, where you actually have a team and you're working together. And so these last 2 sessions, I want you to be thinking about how well your team is performing. Like, are you equipped to handle your work? Could you perform it more effectively? How do you know it's working, even as a leader? And then, so just some questions to ask, are we prepared with our team? What are our best practices in place, and where can we work to improve? So you remember that we're operating from this distinct leadership model called the Snowflake, where the team is the key unit of activity. So we don't want to work in silos or be in a hierarchical structure or even in no structure like the one on the right. The Snowflake model is interdependent and team-based, and the leadership team is at the center. So why do teams matter anyway? I think it's important to have teams for a variety of reasons. For one thing, if you want to make a change at a scale, like a bigger change involving maybe more people or a bigger area, it's helpful to have a team. It helps you create capacity, right? It keeps leaders and others motivated. It's a way of doing work. So, that's why I think most of our work many times is in teams, and we want to be able to know how to make them the most effective. So have you ever been on a scream team? So this is a team where things are just so awful, you just want to scream. So I'm going to just have you either unmute yourself and just talk about, because we've all been on scream teams, right? What are some of the characteristics, or what are some things that make a team a scream team? So either put it in chat or unmute your lines and just say a few things. And I'll watch for the chat too. It'd be easier if you unmute.
I would say that there's no purpose to the meeting. You have a meeting to just have a meeting. Someone talks all the time and they go off tangent onto other things. Those are just a couple.
Yep, thanks, Joanne. Others, scream teams.
I'd say when one person does all the work, or at least there are people who shirk and expect everybody else to do the work, that would be a scream team to me.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, and just going along, I know sometimes, especially when you have a community meeting and you're trying to move something forward, like through a coalition, and you have people coming and going, and you feel like you're in Groundhog Day all the time, like the same, somebody comes and they weren't at the last meeting, or they come in late or something, and you feel like you have to just keep repeating and you're not moving forward on anything because new people join and other people left, and it's just, no consistency is really frustrating.
Yeah. So we've all been on probably a Scream team at one time or another. I'm sure we all have. And it is frustrating. So looking at some of the challenges that teams have, and we've bucketed into three main challenges. So one is there's no clear shared purpose, right? So the group doesn't even really understand quite what they're trying to do together. There might be no clear authority, like who's in charge or who's making decisions. You really don't have the vision on what it takes, what you're trying to achieve or to move forward. And teams many times aren't that great about defining clear purpose together collaboratively. And so to make it crystal clear so everybody knows what exactly we're doing. So it's understandable why teams struggle when you're not really sure what exactly you're doing. The second challenge is you might not have the right people on your team. I think many times we assume that you need like the top leaders, that they need to be on the teams. But I mean, honestly, many times the top leaders don't have time or capacity to be actively engaged on a team. Or we might assume and think that certain organizations or certain departments have to be represented, like just have to have those kind of people, and not really thinking who are the constituencies of the team. So if you remember a few weeks back, we talked about the mapping actors and who really do you want to be working together. Also, many times we fail to think about what are the key things or tasks and resources or capabilities we need when recruiting for a team, so those kind of people or organizations aren't recruited. And then finally, we typically don't assess or know how do people or individuals work together on a team. Are they collaborative? Many times we find out these things after the fact or after we've already put our team together. So we have the wrong people on our team that we're convening. The third challenge is meetings are either a waste of time or they waste time. And I'm sure we've all been at meetings like this. So this is the most malignant challenge of all. Mostly, many of us don't put the time in to make sure that it's very intentional for our teams. There's not real leadership work being done. So sometimes at these meetings, there's just discussions and debates, and you don't really get to a decision-making point or determine what these interdependent roles of our team members are. There might be different institutional cultures and norms. So you may have people that don't necessarily come to the meetings, or they might be late, or they may just randomly send other people to the meetings. So no two meetings are ever the same. And then thirdly, we all just kind of assume we know how we want to behave on our team or what would be the expected behaviors. So we just assume things. So there are no explicit ground rules that are determined by the team. So signs of a Scream team, and we mentioned these when you guys shared. So no clear shared purpose, don't really know what we're doing exactly. You may have the wrong people on the team, and then it's just not productive with how we run the meetings and knowing our goals, etc. So I'm going to have you on your control panel. You'll see that you can do some reactions. If you've ever been on a Scream team, do a thumbs up or one of those icons so we know that we've all been there. See if I can find it. I'm not seeing it on mine. Yeah, okay, so everybody's been on one. It's not that much fun, right? So how do you create the conditions for a dream team? What are the building blocks that we need to have a great team? So the next few slides, we're going to be talking about some of the three challenges and just kind of talk about how you do those. So the first building block is to develop a clear shared purpose for the team. So everybody has this common understanding of why we're coming together. So this is something you talk about with the team. Many times you will have a discussion. There might be a general purpose, but to get it narrowed down, you do want the team to to discuss and then collaboratively agree on it. You want it to be motivating, something that inspires people and propels them into action. You want it to be consequential, which means it's rooted in values that you share. You want it to be known and embraced by everybody. So it's something you understand, you agree to, and you all want to move forward. And it's something that is a significant challenge, something that you can address to make the world better. The second building block is having the right people on the team. So what does this mean? Like, who should you be recruiting for? And we talked about this in our session on mapping actors. So you want to think, who cares about this? What resources do they have? What could they bring to helping me work in my initiative? You want folks that are leading for the good of the community or the initiative, not just for their home institution or their home department. You want people who are leading others. You want to demonstrate that they actually have capacity and time to do the work. I mean, if someone does not have capacity in their schedule to be a part of the team, it'd probably be better to select someone else to be on your team. And then we also want people who are eager to work across the common social boundaries, whether it's status or gender lines or other areas, so that you have a variety of people working together. And then the third area is we talk about creating what we're calling enabling structures for a team. It's holding meetings together. The first step is holding productive meetings. So we've all been to meetings where you come and you really didn't know why you were meeting. There was no clear agenda. And so you want to develop agendas that are strategic, that are interdependent, meaning they pull in the skills of other people on the team, and it leads you to action. You want the people on the team to know, what are we supposed to be doing? Are we advising? Are we problem solving? What is our role? And to have your agenda put out ahead of time. You maybe even want to solicit agenda items from the team members so that they have time to think and prepare for the meeting. The second block of enabling structures is to establish a team with clear, stable boundaries. So when I talk about stable, I'm talking about a team that routinely meets. So you regularly meet, and it's with the same group of people typically. So it's not random people coming in and out of the meeting. So the membership remains fairly consistent. So you get to know each other, you get to know how to work together, you know each other's strengths. So it's a constant group of people. And we call that being bounded. So it's clear who's on the team, not just a random group of people, coming in and out every time. Leaders should know who are the team members, and they should be able to know people by name. Typically, a effective team is fairly small, so like 4 to 7 members of this leadership team. So when we think of boundaries, stable again is routine, regular meetings, and when we say bounded, it's a specific group of people on the team. So you know who is actually meeting, not random people in and out. Step 3 is creating clear interdependent roles on the team. So people know what their role is, what they're supposed to be doing. So you look at the strengths of the people on the team and the skills, and you use those. So knowing that you need everybody on the team to be doing their part, that you support each other. If someone needs some help, you ask for it. Good team members, they communicate that. They communicate when they need assistance. They communicate what they're doing. No one is working in siloed or doing things kind of like on the side or secretly, but it's working all together, interdependent. You know the expectations that each member will be bringing. And then the last step, and this is kind of a big one, it is establishing clear norms. So you want to make sure that everybody agrees and works together on what is our team supposed to behave like? What are the things we expect from each other? So in early on, like really like one of the first meetings, you want to work together and identify what are these norms, and then how do we address if there are violations or acknowledged. So things to think about would be like, how often are we meeting? You know, starting on time, or are we okay starting a couple minutes late? If we're using video like this and say you're only meeting virtually, is it expected that we use our cameras, things like that. So it's good to identify those norms right up front and then revisit them every once in a while as well. And we'll talk more about norms in our next session next week. So the signs of a dream team are that you understand and you meet your goals. You engage everybody on the team. You learn and improve through action. You coordinate and you meet effectively. You have these deep relationships because you know each other and you have a shared purpose. And then you grow in group motivation and empowerment. So now, has anybody been on what I'm going to call a dream team? And I'd like you just to unmute and share a dream team experience. Think of teams you've been on. Has there been one that's been great and has shared some of these characteristics?
I can share one. I have a group, community group for about 6 years now called Transitions in Care. And we talk about the title Transitions in Care, from a hospital setting to back to home or to a community setting, et cetera. And that group has been around for quite a while. We do have some change go on here and there, but there's lots of special subgroup projects that we have created off of that, and then have separate subgroups work on those types of things, with the TIC group kind of being the overall steering committee. And I would say that group has worked pretty well together over the years, but I will also say it takes quite a while for all the relationships and trust to build up to be able to get to the level that we are, where we can start working on those community projects. So.
Thanks, Joanne. So it sounded like, you know, some of the characteristics that I talked about in previous slides, your group had those. So would you say like they had this common shared purpose, that they understood what they're doing together and what the goal is?
Yeah, so we meet monthly, so that is guaranteed. We probably about annually review, do we have the right people at the table? Because sometimes our projects change a little bit and we need some different expertise at the table. In addition, this group has chosen to create, for lack of a better term, a MOU. It's not, you know, a legal MOU, but that just really outlines what the purpose of the group is, and some of the expectations and some of the groups that we work with. So I would say that they have followed a lot of what you're sharing today. I cannot say that about all my groups.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like an MOU or a charter or some kind of document that just clearly spells out some of these basic things is really helpful. And then, of course, you know, as sometimes there are members that get pulled out and new members come in, you can reorient, and it's a good time to kind of refresh everybody on, you know, what we're doing, what are the things we agreed on, do we still like our norms, are there different norms that we want to establish? Thank you. Anybody else want to share about a dream team or part of a team that was dream?
I've got one. As a part of a church, and it's a suburban church, and it's been dwindling in size over the years, as a lot of mainline churches do. We undertook what we call a Healthy Church Initiative a year ago, and with some outside consulting, and we have a team of about 10, 12 people who meet regularly to try to revitalize various aspects of the church. And it's It's very cross-functional. We have people who are retired. We have people who are just starting out their careers, kind of men and women, different skill sets. We meet regularly, and if somebody can't be there, they take it upon themselves to either catch up or work with somebody to find out what's going on and contribute. Everybody contributes, and everybody recognizes and supports each other's skills. And it's just amazing what we've done together. And this has only been in the last year. So we only started meeting for a few months before the pandemic kicked in. And then we've been meeting by Zoom, well, outside when we could, but by Zoom. And I've never been part of a team that was so committed to and worked together, supported each other, had a really strong common goal. I mean, it really has all the elements that that you were describing as a dream team.
Thank you, Nancy. I have a question for you. So I'm assuming not everybody in the group knew each other before, right? So how did the leaders help people form that relationship where they, got to the point of trust and knowing each other?
Well, we knew each other, but not well. I mean, we knew the person because they went to the same church, but we really didn't know each other's backgrounds or strengths or interests or, and it was part of what we do each time is share. So we'd have a sharing question. So we learned about each other on a personal level, as well as getting the work done. And that has made such a difference. And when, especially during the pandemic, when, everybody's just going crazy anyway, we would never have seen this before, but people reach out and touch base and see how people are doing, even outside the meeting. So it's just, I've never experienced anything quite like it, but it definitely has all the elements that you were talking about.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. How you mentioned at a team meeting, just going around and sharing something personal. I've seen that quite a bit in some of the teams I'm on, and it does really make you feel closer to people or get to understand them or connect with them better. So I know a lot of our work is not just located here in our state, but across states. And that's been a great way of building that relationship. Thank you for everybody for sharing. So it's just nice to know that we've been there are dream teams out there, even though we've all probably been on scream teams. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you've been on a dream team with your icons. Thank you. Yeah. So we've all been on good teams too, right? But there is a difference. So what we're going to do for our breakout session, we're going to diagnose the conditions of your team. So think of a team that you're currently working on, and I'm going to have you diagnose that using our participant guide. So hopefully you all have that handy. So the purpose is to assess the conditions of your team. You're going to be looking to see if you have a compelling sequential, which is like rooted in shared values, a purpose. Do you have the right people on there with the skills? And what's about your team structure? So I'm going to just go to the next slide with the directions. But if you would take out your participant guide, we're going to be working on pages 15, 16, and 17. You're going to be doing like a 3-question assessment for your team. So look on page 16, and we'll be putting you in groups of just 2 or 3 participants, but you will first alone assess your own team. So if you have the sheet in front of you on page 16, you'll do the middle column first. So, and you'll give yourself a grade, A, B, C, D, F. And so you're first looking at leadership design. So we say, is it bounded? So again, bounded means you know who is on the team. It's not people like random people every time. Is it a stable membership? And then is it stable? That means, do you meet routinely, regularly? Are they meeting regularly? Or is it just kind of haphazard? Interdependent means, are you looking at the skills of the people on the team, pulling out their skill sets? And so then you'll grade each of those, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then on the left column, it says the real team with the right people, give yourself an overall grade. So you'll like average those grades, if you have like some A's and some F's, you probably end up with a C. And then just write a little summary, like why did you give your team that grade? And then go down to the next one. Is there a clear shared purpose? Is it consequential, which means, is it rooted in shared values? Like, are there things that are rooted in your values for people? Maybe it's like equity or quality or something like that. And then does it pose a significant challenge? So then why did you rate that? And then the last question is talking about more the structure. Do you have clear roles and responsibilities? Do we have real leadership making decisions? Do we have explicit norms? Have you done that? And give yourself a grade. So then at the bottom, just kind of summarize what areas, like look for the strengths, what's going for your team, what are the areas that need most improvement, and what would you like to start working on first to make a change to make your team even better?